The elevator descended, floor after floor, into the depths of Archuleta Mesa. The security officer had worked there for 6 months. Level 1, Level 2, Level 3, standard military research. But then, Level 7, the doors opened, and what he saw would haunt him for the rest of his life. Rows of cages, but they weren't holding animals. They were holding humans, and standing over them, beings that shouldn't exist, tall, gray skin, eyes like black pools, watching him, as if they'd been expecting him. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. His body wouldn't respond, paralyzed, not by fear, by something else, something in his mind, a presence, cold, ancient, utterly inhuman, and then a voice, not spoken, not heard, felt, inside his skull. You were not supposed to see this. The being moved closer, silent, gliding across the floor, its eyes never blinking, never looking away. He wanted to run, wanted to scream, but his body was no longer his own. The being raised one hand, long fingers, too many joints, and touched his forehead. The world went white. When he woke up, he was back on Level 1. His supervisor told him he'd fainted. Heat exhaustion. Nothing unusual. But he knew. He remembered. And 3 days later, he disappeared. There are places the government denies exist. Facilities buried so deep they don't appear on any map. Where classified experiments push the boundaries of everything we know. Where treaties signed in darkness have consequences we're only beginning to understand. And where the line between human and alien has already been crossed. Welcome to the dark void, where the truth is buried deeper than you can imagine. If you want to uncover the secrets hidden beneath our feet, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Because here at the Dark Void, we investigate facilities that officially don't exist. And with each video, we get closer to the truth they don't want you to know. Dulce, New Mexico. Population, less than 3,000. A quiet town on the Jicarilla Apache Reservation, surrounded by desert, mountains, and silence. The kind of place where nothing ever happens, where tourists pass through without stopping, where the most exciting event is the annual rodeo, where life moves slowly, predictably, or so it seems. Because beneath Archuleta Mesa, just north of the town, something is happening. Something that's been happening since the late 1970s. A joint operation between the United States government and extraterrestrial intelligence. An agreement that violates every principle of human sovereignty. A collaboration that, if exposed, would shatter our understanding of reality and redefine humanity's place in the universe. The Dulce Base, 7 levels deep into solid rock, 2.5 miles beneath the surface, excavated over decades, expanded continuously. The upper levels, human-controlled, genetics research, advanced technology, conventional military operations, scientists working on projects they believe are cutting edge, military personnel thinking they're serving their country, administrators managing what they're told is a classified research facility. Nothing more. But the lower levels, those belong to them. The grays, beings from somewhere else, somewhere we can't even point to on a star map. And what they're doing down there goes beyond anything the human scientists upstairs could imagine. Phil Schneider was a geological engineer, 17 years working on classified government projects, building deep underground military bases across the United States. He had high-level security clearance, Rhyolite 38 clearance, one of the highest in the country. He knew secrets, lots of them, but nothing prepared him for Dulce. In 1979, he was hired for a project in northern New Mexico. Standard assignment: expand an existing underground facility, drill, blast, excavate, create additional space for what he was told was a military research installation. Routine work. He'd done it dozens of times before, until his crew broke through into something that was already there, something that wasn't on any blueprint, something that shouldn't exist. The drill hit empty space, a massive cavern, not natural, not on any schematic. The engineers were confused. According to all their surveys, this area should be solid rock, but the drill was spinning freely, no resistance. Schneider ordered the drilling stopped. They needed to investigate. He descended with his team into the newly opened shaft. Standard protocol: assess the situation, determine if it's safe to continue. The air was wrong as soon as they entered. Too warm, too humid, a strange metallic smell, like copper and ozone mixed together, and something else, something organic, decaying. The team spread out with flashlights. The cavern was enormous, cathedral-sized, walls smooth, too smooth, not carved by water or geological processes, carved by tools, by intelligence. And then they saw them, tall beings, gray skin, large black eyes, standing in the cavern, 7 of them, just standing there, as if they'd been waiting, as if they knew the humans were coming. Schneider's training kicked in. He reached for his weapon, but before he could draw it, the beings reacted. One raised its hand. A device appeared, or maybe it was part of the being itself. Schneider never knew for sure. A blue beam of light erupted from it, silent, impossibly fast. It struck him in the chest, burning through flesh and bone. The pain was instant, overwhelming. He looked down, his fingers simply gone, vaporized, blood pouring from his hand. Around him, his team was screaming. More beams of light, blue, green, red. Soldiers falling, bodies hitting the ground. The smell of burnt flesh filling the cavern. Schneider fired back. His weapon seemed to work. One of the beings fell, but the others kept coming, relentless, emotionless. A soldier next to him grabbed a grenade, threw it. The explosion rocked the cavern. Rock falling from the ceiling, dust everywhere. In the chaos, Schneider ran, stumbled, crawled, blood trailing behind him. He made it to the elevator shaft. Others followed, but not many. 66 soldiers went down into that cavern that day. Schneider and fewer than 10 made it back to the surface. The rest left behind, dead or captured. He never knew which. The base went into immediate lockdown. Military personnel swarmed the area. Medical teams treated the survivors. Schneider's hand was bandaged, cauterized, but the damage was permanent. He'd lost fingers to a weapon that wasn't supposed to exist, to beings that weren't supposed to be real. The debriefing lasted hours. Men in suits, no names, no badges. They asked questions, recorded everything. And then they told him what would happen next. He would never speak about this, never tell anyone what he saw. The incident would be classified at the highest levels, buried under national security protocols. And if he talked, there would be consequences, severe consequences. The official report listed it as a mining accident, cave collapse, structural failure. 66 men lost due to unstable geology. A tragedy, but nothing unusual, nothing that required further investigation. The families of the dead were given flag-draped coffins, military honors, compensation, and silence. But Schneider knew what he'd seen, and for years, he stayed quiet, kept the secret, tried to move on, but the nightmares never stopped. The pain in his hand never faded, and the knowledge that humanity was sharing this planet with something else, it ate at him until he couldn't stay silent anymore. In the early 1990s, Schneider began speaking publicly. Lectures, conferences, interviews. He told his story to anyone who would listen, showed his scars, described the beings, detailed the weapons. He claimed the United States government had been working with extraterrestrial species since the 1950s, that multiple deep underground bases existed across the country, that genetic experiments were being conducted, that humans were being used as test subjects, and that the American people had no idea what was happening beneath their feet. The response was predictable. Skeptics dismissed him as delusional, a conspiracy theorist, someone seeking attention. The mainstream media ignored him, and the government watched and waited. Schneider claimed he survived 17 assassination attempts, cars running him off the road, brake lines cut, suspicious individuals following him, threatening phone calls. He told friends he knew his time was limited, that they would come for him eventually, but he kept talking, kept warning people, because he believed the truth was more important than his life. November 1996. Schneider was found dead in his apartment in Wilsonville, Oregon. Piano wire wrapped around his neck, tightly, multiple times. His hands were bound. Medical equipment he needed for his deteriorating health had been ripped from his body. The scene was violent, chaotic. The official ruling, suicide. The medical examiner determined he'd strangled himself, despite the physical impossibility, despite the evidence of a struggle, despite the fact that with his missing fingers, tying the knots found on his body would have been extremely difficult, if not impossible. Suicide. His ex-wife, Cynthia Dreyer, fought the ruling, hired investigators, gathered evidence, showed that Phil had been in good spirits. that he was planning future lectures, that he was working on a book. That suicide made no sense. The ruling stood. No further investigation. Case closed. Phil Schneider was silenced, permanently, and his warnings about Dulce were buried with him. But Schneider wasn't the only one who knew about Dulce. Thomas Costello worked security at the base, not as a contractor, not as a temporary engineer, as a full-time employee. High clearance access, level 7 access. He spent 7 years there, from the late 1970s to the mid-1980s, and what he saw during those 7 years changed everything. According to Costello, the Dulce Base is structured like a pyramid, 7 distinct levels, each deeper than the last, each more classified, each more disturbing. Level 1 is security and communications, the public face, where deliveries are received, where the few authorized visitors are processed. It looks like any other government facility. Sterile, professional, boring, nothing to raise suspicion. Level 2 is human housing, dormitories for the scientists and military personnel stationed there, cafeteria, recreation areas, medical facilities, everything needed for people to live underground for extended periods. Comfortable, almost normal. The people living here might spend weeks or months without seeing the surface, but they're well taken care of, and most of them have no idea what's happening below them. Level 3 houses the executive offices and laboratories. This is where the serious research begins. Genetics, biotechnology, advanced physics, projects funded by black budgets, money that doesn't appear in any congressional record, scientists working on classified programs, developing technologies decades ahead of anything publicly available. They believe they're advancing human knowledge, serving their country, and they are. But they don't know the whole story. They don't know where some of their research materials come from. They don't know who they're really working for. Level 4 is where things start to get strange. Research into human consciousness, psychic abilities, telepathy, remote viewing, experiments designed to unlock the potential of the human mind, to push beyond the limits of normal perception. Costello described rooms where subjects would sit in isolation tanks, sensory deprivation chambers, while technicians monitored their brain activity, trying to induce altered states, trying to make contact with something. Success rates were low, but when someone did make contact, when someone's mind opened to whatever was on the other side, they were moved to Level 5. Level 5 is alien housing, living quarters for the non-human inhabitants of Dulce, the Greys. Costello said there were dozens of them, maybe more. They had their own section of the base, their own facilities, areas where humans were not permitted without specific authorization. The Greys kept to themselves mostly, moved through the base silently, interacted with humans only when necessary, but they were always watching, always aware of everything happening around them. Telepathic communication was constant among them, a network of minds, working in perfect coordination. The environment on Level 5 was different. Lower oxygen levels, higher humidity, temperature controlled to match whatever climate the Greys preferred. Lighting that extended into the ultraviolet spectrum, uncomfortable for humans, but the Greys seemed to thrive there. Costello rarely went to Level 5. His security clearance allowed it, but it wasn't encouraged. The humans and the Greys had an understanding, mutual tolerance, stay out of each other's way, don't ask too many questions, and everything would be fine. But Level 6 was different. Costello called it Nightmare Hall, and once you saw it, you understood why. Level 6 was genetic experimentation, hybrid development, attempts to merge human DNA with alien DNA to create something new, something that combined the best of both species, or so they claimed. The reality was far more horrific. Rows of laboratory rooms, each containing experiments at various stages. Some were petri dishes and test tubes, cellular level work, but others were living beings, creatures in cages, multi-armed, multi-legged, beings that looked almost human, but not quite. Eyes too large, skin the wrong color, proportions distorted, and they were conscious, aware. Some could speak, fragmented words in multiple languages, begging, pleading to be released, to be killed, to end the suffering. Costello described one experiment that haunted him. A child, or what had once been a child. Human DNA mixed with gray genetics. The result was wrong. skin translucent, veins visible beneath the surface, eyes enormous and black like the grays, but facial features that were distinctly human. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, sitting in a containment cell, staring at him. And when he looked into those eyes, he saw intelligence, understanding, and pain. So much pain. He asked the scientists why. Why create something like this? Why make it suffer? They told him it wasn't suffering. It was adapting, learning. This was the future of humanity. Evolution guided by superior intelligence. The Greys were helping us, improving us. We should be grateful, but Costello wasn't grateful. He was horrified, and level 7 was even worse. Level 7 was the deepest level, maximum security. Very few humans had access. Costello only went there a handful of times, and each time, he wished he hadn't. Cryogenic storage, row after row of cylindrical tanks, thousands of them, each one containing something, human organs, limbs, entire bodies, preserved in liquid suspension, cataloged, labeled, stored. Some of the bodies looked normal. Others showed signs of experimentation, surgical modifications, genetic alterations, and some were still alive, not conscious, but alive. Vital signs monitored, kept in stasis, for purposes Costello never fully understood. He asked his supervisor about it once. What are they for? Why are they being kept? The answer was vague. Research, future use, biological samples. Don't worry about it. Just do your job. But Costello did worry about it, because some of those bodies, some of those faces, were familiar. Missing persons, people who disappeared without a trace. He'd seen their photos on milk cartons, on news reports, and now they were here, floating in tanks, 2 miles beneath New Mexico. That's when Costello decided he couldn't stay silent. He'd seen too much, known too much, and if he didn't speak out, no one would ever know what was happening down there. In 1979, he began planning his escape, carefully, methodically. He couldn't just walk out. Security was too tight, and if they knew what he was planning, he'd end up in one of those tanks on level 7. He started making copies of classified documents, slowly, a few pages at a time, smuggling them out in his work bag, hiding them in his home. He took photographs with a small camera, lab rooms, experiments, the beings, evidence that couldn't be denied, and he gathered video footage from security cameras, recordings of things that should never have been recorded. When he had enough, he fled, left Dulce in the middle of the night, drove to Albuquerque, then to Colorado, always moving, never staying in one place too long. He knew they'd be looking for him, and he knew what would happen if they found him. Costello reached out to a select group of UFO researchers, people he thought might believe him, might help him get the truth out. He provided them with copies of his documents, some of the photographs, detailed descriptions of what he'd seen, floor plans of the base, names of personnel, everything he could remember. And then he went into hiding, deep hiding, new identity, new location, total separation from his previous life. His wife and child disappeared around the same time, 1988. No forwarding address, no contact information, no trace. Some researchers believe they entered witness protection. Others believe something worse happened to them. No one knows for sure. Thomas Costello has not been seen or heard from since 1988. Nearly 40 years. He's either extremely well hidden, or he's dead. Either way, his testimony remains. Documented, detailed, consistent, and disturbingly plausible. What would you do if you discovered something like this existed beneath your town? Would you speak out, knowing the risk? Or would you stay silent to protect yourself and your family? Let me know what you think in the comments below. The town of Dulce has a history that predates the base, predates modern UFO sightings, a history that goes back centuries. The Jicarilla Apache have lived in this region for generations, and they have stories, old stories, passed down through oral tradition, about beings that live beneath the earth, star people who came from the sky, doorways into other worlds hidden in the mountains, caves where strange things happened, places where people disappeared. The elders warned against going to certain areas, sacred sites, forbidden places, where the boundary between this world and others grew thin, where beings from elsewhere could cross over. These weren't myths to the Apache. These were warnings, based on real experiences, real encounters that stretched back hundreds of years. When the first European settlers arrived, they heard the stories and dismissed them as superstition, primitive beliefs. But some of the settlers had their own encounters: lights in the mountains, strange sounds at night, livestock going missing, and occasionally, people vanishing, hunters who went into the wilderness and never returned, children who wandered too far and were never found. By the early 20th century, Dulce was a small, isolated community. Ranching, logging, quiet rural life, nothing unusual. Until the 1970s, when everything changed. 1975, the cattle mutilations began. Rancher Manuel Gomez was one of the first to experience it. He woke up one morning to find one of his cows dead in the field. At first he thought it was a predator, mountain lion, maybe a bear. But when he examined the carcass, it was wrong. Precision cuts, surgical removal of organs, the reproductive system completely excised, eyes cored out cleanly, tongue removed as if with a scalpel, and no blood, not a drop. The entire animal had been drained. This wasn't a predator kill. This was something else. Within weeks, more ranchers reported similar incidents. Dozens of cattle, all with the same characteristics. Precise cuts, missing organs, no blood, and no tracks. No evidence of how the animals had been killed, or by what. The ranchers were terrified. This was their livelihood. Their animals were being systematically destroyed, and no one could explain it. State police investigated. They had no answers. Sent samples to laboratories. The cuts showed no tool marks. The precision suggested advanced technology. But from where? From who? Then, federal agents arrived. Men in dark suits, asking questions, taking samples, examining the sites. They told the ranchers it was predators, natural causes, scavengers after death. But the ranchers knew better. They'd raised cattle their entire lives. They knew what predator kills looked like. This wasn't that. And then Gomez saw them. The lights, silent objects in the night sky, hovering over his ranch, over the mesa, moving in ways that defied physics. Sudden stops, instantaneous acceleration, 90-degree turns without slowing down. No aircraft could do that. Nothing man-made could move like that. He started watching every night, documenting the lights, taking photographs when he could. Blurry, distant, but something. And he noticed a pattern. The lights appeared most frequently over Archuleta Mesa, hovering, descending, sometimes disappearing behind the mountain, as if landing or entering it. One night in 1976, Gomez saw more than lights. He was checking on his herd after midnight. Something felt wrong. The cattle were agitated, pacing, making noise. And then he saw it, a craft, hovering low over his field, disc-shaped, metallic, completely silent, lights rotating around its circumference, bright white, almost blinding. He stood there, frozen, watching. A beam of light extended down from the craft, thick, solid-looking, and in that beam, one of his cows, floating, rising slowly toward the craft. The animal wasn't struggling, just floating, as if in a trance. Gomez wanted to do something, shoot at it, yell, something, but he couldn't move, couldn't speak, paralyzed, just like the cow. He watched as the animal disappeared into the craft. The beam retracted, and the craft rose silently into the sky, accelerated, and vanished. The next morning, the cow was found 3 miles away, in a different field, mutilated, eyes gone, organs removed, no blood. Gomez never reported what he'd seen. Who would believe him? But he knew. He knew exactly what was happening. Other ranchers started seeing the lights too, comparing notes, whispering among themselves, but never going public. The ridicule would be unbearable. And besides, the federal agents had made it clear, keep quiet, don't cause panic, let us handle it. But they weren't handling it. The mutilations continued. The lights kept appearing, and something else started happening. People began disappearing. Not many, 1 or 2 a year. Hunters, hikers, campers, people who went into the mountains and never came back. Search parties found nothing. No bodies, no equipment, no trace. As if they'd simply vanished into thin air. The official explanations varied. Lost. Fell into a ravine. Animal attack. But the locals knew. The mountains weren't safe anymore. Something was out there. Something that took people, and whatever it was It was connected to that mesa. Dr. Paul Benowitz was a physicist living in Albuquerque. His home was located right next to Kirtland Air Force Base, and in the late 1970s he started noticing something strange. Lights, not airplanes, not helicopters, something else, moving over the base at night, performing maneuvers that shouldn't be possible. Benowitz was a scientist, rational, methodical. He didn't believe in flying saucers, but he believed in evidence, and the evidence was undeniable. He set up equipment, cameras, recording devices, low-frequency radio receivers, and he started documenting everything. The lights appeared almost nightly, always following similar patterns, always over the same areas of the base, and his radio equipment started picking up signals. Strange transmissions, not standard military communications, not commercial broadcasts, something else entirely. The signals were pulsed, rhythmic, almost like data transmission. He recorded hours of them, ran them through analysis software, and discovered something disturbing. The signals were coming from two locations. One was the Kirtland base, the other was somewhere north, in the direction of Dulce, New Mexico. Benowitz became obsessed. He triangulated the signals, tracked their origin, and determined they were emanating from beneath Archuleta Mesa, from underground. He calculated depth, direction, frequency patterns, and concluded that there was a massive facility beneath that mountain, a facility transmitting and receiving signals, communicating with craft in the sky, possibly communicating with something much farther away. He compiled his research, created detailed reports with photographs, audio recordings, technical analysis, and in 1980, he contacted the Air Force. He thought they'd want to know, thought they'd investigate. He was a loyal citizen, a scientist offering valuable intelligence. The Air Force listened, thanked him for his patriotism, and assigned an agent to work with him, Richard Doty, special agent with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. At first, Benowitz thought he'd found an ally. Doty seemed interested, asked detailed questions, encouraged Benowitz to continue his research. He even provided him with additional information, classified documents, photos of alleged alien craft, details about secret programs, everything Benowitz wanted to hear. But it was all a lie. Every piece of information Doty gave him was fabricated, designed to lead Benowitz down false paths, to make his research look increasingly outlandish, to discredit him before he could share his real findings. It was a calculated disinformation campaign, and it worked perfectly. Doty fed Benowitz stories about underground alien bases, about genetic experiments, about government collaboration with extraterrestrials, mixed just enough truth with complete fiction, so that when Benowitz went public, no one would take him seriously. Benowitz started giving lectures, writing papers, claiming that aliens were working with the US government, that humans were being abducted for genetic experiments, that there was a massive underground facility at Dulce. Everything Doty had fed him, and the UFO community ate it up. But the scientific community, the people who might have taken his original research seriously, they dismissed him as a crackpot. By the mid-1980s, Benowitz was a mess, paranoid, anxious, sleeping poorly. He believed he was being watched, that his phones were tapped, that agents were monitoring his every move. He wasn't entirely wrong, but the stress was destroying him. In 1988, he suffered a complete mental breakdown, was hospitalized, underwent psychiatric treatment. When he was released, he was a broken man. His research was abandoned, his credibility destroyed, and no one believed anything he said anymore. Richard Doty had accomplished his mission: neutralize Benowitz, discredit his findings, make sure the real information, the original signals he'd detected, the evidence of underground facilities, would be buried under layers of ridicule and disinformation. Benowitz died in 2003, quiet, forgotten, a footnote in UFO history, a cautionary tale about obsession and paranoia. But here's the question no one asks. If Benowitz was completely wrong, if there was nothing at Dulce, if his research was meaningless, why did the Air Force spend years systematically destroying him? Why assign an agent? Why create an elaborate disinformation campaign? Why not just ignore him? Let him rant into the void. The effort they put into discrediting Benowitz suggests he'd found something real, something important enough to warrant a multi-year operation to silence him. What was he really detecting? What were those signals? And what is beneath Archuleta Mesa that required this level of protection? The Dulce Base is allegedly the result of a treaty, an agreement signed decades ago between the United States government and an extraterrestrial species known as the Greys. The story goes back to the 1950s. According to researchers, first contact happened during the Eisenhower administration. Multiple species made themselves known. Some offered technology, others offered warnings. But the Greys offered a deal. They wanted access to Earth, access to humans. For research purposes, genetic study, they claimed their species was dying, that they needed to understand human biology, to incorporate human DNA into their genome, to save themselves from extinction. In exchange, they would provide technology, advanced propulsion systems, energy generation beyond anything humans had developed, materials science, medical knowledge, technology that could revolutionize human civilization, leap us forward by centuries. The decision-makers faced an impossible choice: refuse and risk making enemies of a vastly superior civilization, accept and allow aliens to experiment on humans. They accepted. The treaty was signed. The Greys were given permission to establish research facilities, underground locations, hidden from public view, where they could conduct their work. In return, they would provide technological assistance, training human scientists, sharing knowledge, helping humanity advance. But there were rules. The Greys could abduct a limited number of humans for examination, for study, but they had to return them unharmed, with no permanent damage, and with no memory of what happened. The abductees would be chosen carefully: remote locations, isolated individuals, people whose disappearance wouldn't raise alarms, and the Greys would report their activities, maintain transparency with their human partners. It seemed manageable, controlled, a reasonable exchange, but the Greys didn't follow the rules. Abductions increased, far beyond the agreed-upon numbers. Hundreds, then thousands. People taken from their homes, from highways, from their beds, and they weren't being returned unharmed. They came back with scars, missing time, psychological trauma. Some came back changed, with abilities they didn't have before, or with illnesses that couldn't be explained. The experiments became more invasive, more permanent. Genetic material wasn't just being studied, it was being harvested, used to create hybrids. Beings that were part human, part Grey. And the Greys weren't being transparent. They operated in secret, even from their supposed human partners. Conducted experiments the humans never authorized. Pursued agendas the humans didn't understand. By the late 1970s, the humans at Dulce realized they'd lost control. The base was supposed to be a joint operation, but the Greys were calling the shots. The lower levels were theirs. Humans needed permission to enter, and what they saw when they were allowed down there horrified them. That's when tensions reached a breaking point. Some human personnel wanted to shut it down, wanted to end the treaty, expel the Greys, consequences be damned. Others argued it was too late, that humanity was dependent on the technology, that breaking the treaty would provoke retaliation, that we had no choice but to continue. The debate became heated, arguments turned into confrontations, and then violence. The Dulce Wars, 1979. Phil Schneider's encounter was part of it, but it was bigger than one firefight. According to those who claim knowledge of the incident, it started when human security forces attempted to access Level 6 without authorization. They'd heard rumors about what was happening there, the experiments, the hybrids. They wanted to see for themselves. The Greys tried to stop them. A confrontation ensued. Weapons were drawn, shots fired, human soldiers against alien beings. The battle spread through the lower levels. More soldiers arrived, special forces teams, armed with experimental weapons, designed specifically to combat non-human entities. The Greys fought back, with technology far beyond human capability. Energy weapons, psychic attacks. Some soldiers reported their minds being invaded, controlled, turned against their own teammates. The fighting lasted for days, locked down in the depths of the base. No communication with the outside world, just brutal combat in the darkness. The official casualty count was never released, but estimates suggest over 60 military personnel died. Grey casualties are unknown. Their bodies were never recovered, removed by their own kind before humans could secure the area. When it was over, The Greys remained in control of levels 5, 6, and 7. The treaty remained in place, but everything had changed. The humans knew they were not partners. They were prisoners, collaborators in their own subjugation, and they couldn't tell anyone, couldn't reveal what was happening, because the implications were too massive, too terrifying. If the public knew that the government had surrendered human sovereignty, that we were allowing aliens to experiment on our people, that we'd lost a war in an underground base no one knew existed, the consequences would be catastrophic. So they buried it, called it a mining accident, honored the dead in private, and continued the charade, business as usual, while 2 miles underground, the nightmare continued. Is there physical evidence? Anything concrete that proves Dulce Base exists? The official answer is no. No government records acknowledge it. No budget documents list it. No satellite imagery shows it. According to every official source, Dulce Base is fiction, but there are anomalies, things that don't quite add up. Seismic readings in the Dulce area show unusual underground activity, vibrations that don't match natural geological patterns, regular, rhythmic, consistent with heavy machinery operating deep below the surface. Land acquisitions around Archuleta Mesa, thousands of acres purchased by shell companies, traced back to Department of Defense contractors. For what purpose? No development, no visible construction, just restricted access. The airspace over Dulce is regulated. Flyover restrictions for a town of 3,000 people. Why? What's being protected? And the witnesses keep coming. Not just Schneider and Costello, others. Security personnel who worked brief contracts. Scientists who spent time at what they were told was a genetics research facility. Truck drivers who made deliveries to unmarked locations, all describing similar experiences. Underground facilities, non-human entities, genetic experiments. In 1988, a group of UFO researchers attempted to investigate. Jason Bishop and a small team. They hiked into the mountains near Archuleta Mesa, set up monitoring equipment, electromagnetic sensors, radio receivers, cameras, looking for evidence. The first 2 nights were uneventful. Some unusual electromagnetic readings, radio interference, but nothing conclusive. The 3rd night, things changed. Around 2 in the morning, their equipment went haywire. Massive electromagnetic spikes, off the charts, and lights beneath the ground, pulsing up through cracks in the rock, as if something enormous was active deep below. They started recording, documenting everything. This was it, real evidence. Then they heard vehicles approaching, multiple trucks, no headlights, moving fast through the darkness. Armed men emerged, no uniforms, no identification, just weapons, pointed directly at the researchers. They were ordered to shut down their equipment, pack up, leave immediately. When Bishop asked by what authority, one of the men stepped forward. "This is a restricted area. You're trespassing. You have 5 minutes to vacate." "But this is public land," Bishop protested. The man smiled. "Not anymore, it isn't." They packed up quickly. The armed men watched, and when they tried to take their equipment, they were stopped. "The equipment stays. You leave." Bishop and his team hiked back to their vehicle, drove away, and never returned. Their cameras, their sensors, their recordings, all confiscated, all evidence of what they'd detected, gone. If there's nothing at Dulce, who were those men? What authority did they have? And what were they protecting? The most disturbing aspect of Dulce isn't the technology, it's the human cost. According to Thomas Costello and other sources, humans are brought to the lower levels, not volunteers, not informed participants, abductees, missing persons, people society won't miss, homeless individuals, runaways, undocumented immigrants, people whose disappearance won't trigger major investigations. They're taken, transported to the base, and used in experiments, genetic research, DNA extraction, cross-species fertilization, attempts to create viable human-alien hybrids. The process is brutal. Invasive procedures without anesthesia, multiple extractions, testing the limits of human biology. How much can the body endure? How far can genetics be pushed? Some subjects survive, changed, traumatized, with altered DNA, enhanced abilities in some cases, psychic sensitivity, heightened awareness, but at tremendous psychological cost. Others don't survive. Their bodies are stored, Level 7, in cryogenic suspension, cataloged by genetic markers, available for future experimentation, or for disposal when no longer useful. Costello described seeing documentation, files on thousands of individuals, names, dates of abduction, genetic profiles, experiment results, all meticulously recorded, all classified at the highest levels. And the children, the hybrid children, created in laboratories, grown in artificial wombs, combinations of human and gray genetics. Most don't survive to maturity. The genetic incompatibility is too great. They're viable for weeks, sometimes months, but rarely years. And those that do survive are kept isolated, studied, monitored, never knowing freedom, never experiencing life beyond the laboratory. Costello said that was what broke him, seeing those children, trapped in glass chambers, looking at him with eyes that were too human to ignore, but too alien to fully understand. They were conscious, aware, and they were suffering. Is this really happening? Are humans being used this way, or is it elaborate fiction? The product of overactive imaginations. The evidence is circumstantial, but it's consistent. Too many witnesses telling similar stories, too many details that match, too much effort being put into suppressing information. And every year, thousands of people go missing in the United States. According to the National Crime Information Center, over 600,000 people are reported missing annually. Most are found, but tens of thousands are not. They vanish without a trace. No bodies, no evidence, no closure. Where do they go? Official explanations vary. Accidents, voluntary disappearance, foul play. But what if some of them, a small percentage, end up somewhere else, somewhere underground, somewhere the public doesn't know exists? In 1995, a document surfaced, the Dulce Papers, allegedly copied by Thomas Costello before his disappearance, containing floor plans of the base, security protocols, photographs of experiments, diagrams of hybrid development. UFO researchers analyzed them extensively. Some declared them authentic, pointing to technical details that would be difficult to fabricate. Security systems, architectural specifics, terminology consistent with classified military installations. Others found inconsistencies, anachronisms in the technology described, details that didn't match other accounts, possible evidence of forgery. The debate continues. No definitive conclusion. But within those papers is something even more disturbing. References to other facilities. Dulce wasn't alone. According to the documents, there's a network. Multiple deep underground military bases, scattered across the United States and around the world, each conducting similar research, each housing extraterrestrial entities, all connected by underground transit systems. High-speed trains moving through tunnels miles beneath the surface, linking the facilities, allowing rapid movement of personnel and materials. The documents mention specific locations: Pine Gap in Australia, a joint U.S.-Australian facility, officially a satellite tracking station. But according to the papers, it's much more. Level upon level underground. Research similar to Dulce, possibly even larger in scope. Area 51 in Nevada. Everyone knows about Area 51, but the papers suggest it's just the surface, that the real facility extends miles underground, connected to other bases throughout the Southwest, part of a massive underground complex. Montauk in New York, site of alleged time travel and consciousness experiments in the 1980s. The papers suggest those experiments never stopped. They went underground, became more classified, more extreme. Porton Down in England, officially a defense science facility, but rumors persist about underground levels, about joint operations with non-human intelligence. If the Dulce papers are accurate, if even half of what they describe is true, then this is global, a worldwide collaboration between multiple governments and extraterrestrial species, operating in complete secrecy, conducting experiments that would horrify the public, and preparing for what? That's the question no one can answer. What's the end game? Why create hybrids? Why harvest human DNA? What are they preparing for? Some researchers believe it's survival, that the Greys are a dying species, that crossbreeding with humans is their only hope, that we're being used to save them from extinction. Others believe it's more sinister, that they're creating a replacement population, beings that can survive in changing environmental conditions. that can endure what pure humans cannot, preparing for a future where Earth is no longer hospitable to baseline humanity. And some believe it's simpler, that we're livestock, a resource to be exploited, that the Greys have been managing humanity for millennia, guiding our evolution, culling the herd, using us for purposes we can't comprehend. The truth may be something none of us have considered, something so far beyond our current understanding that even if they explained it, we couldn't process it. We like to think we're the dominant species on this planet, the top of the food chain, masters of our own destiny. But what if we're not? What if we never have been? What if there's been another intelligence, operating in the shadows, shaping events, conducting experiments, with humanity as the subject? Dulce might not be an aberration. It might be standard procedure, part of a program that's been running for thousands of years, and we're only now starting to see the edges of it. Phil Schneider's final public appearance was in 1995, a lecture in Denver. He looked tired, worn down, but determined. He told the audience that time was running out, that the government's collaboration with extraterrestrial species was reaching a critical phase, that within decades, the truth would become impossible to hide. He said the Greys had an agenda, and humanity was not equipped to stop it, that our weapons were useless against their technology, that our governments had already surrendered, that the best we could do was prepare, wake people up, make them aware. Someone in the audience asked him, "If it's so hopeless, why keep talking?" Schneider smiled, a sad, weary smile. "Because if enough people know," he said, "they can't keep lying forever. Truth has a way of forcing itself out, and when it does, we'll need to be ready." 3 months later, he was dead. Thomas Costello's final communication was in 1988, a letter to a UFO researcher. Brief, cryptic. It said, "They know I have the evidence. I can't stay hidden much longer. If something happens to me, make sure people know the truth. Make sure they know what's under Dulce. Don't let them bury this." He was never heard from again. Paul Benowitz spent the last years of his life as a recluse, broken by the disinformation campaign that destroyed his credibility. He died in 2003, alone, forgotten. 3 men who spoke about Dulce, all silenced, one way or another, but their testimonies remain, documented, preserved, and new witnesses keep emerging. Not many. Most people who know the truth stay silent. The risk is too great, but occasionally someone speaks up, provides a detail, a confirmation, another piece of the puzzle, and slowly, the picture becomes clearer. Today, Dulce is still a quiet town, still surrounded by desert and mountains. Life goes on. People work, raise families, live normal lives. The mesa still looms over everything, silent, unchanged. But at night, the lights still appear, less frequently than in the 70s. But they're still there. Witnesses still report them. Silent craft hovering over the mountain, descending, disappearing behind the peaks. And occasionally, someone goes missing. A hiker, a camper, someone who went into the wilderness alone. Search parties find nothing. The official explanation, lost, presumed dead. But the locals wonder, whisper among themselves, but never speak too loudly. The restricted airspace remains. The land acquisitions continue. Armed security patrols the perimeter. Of what? Officially nothing. There's nothing there. But if there's nothing there, why all the security? Why the restrictions? What's being protected? In 2009, a documentary crew attempted to investigate. They approached Archuleta Mesa with cameras. Were stopped within an hour. Armed guards, no identification, orders to leave immediately. Their footage was confiscated. They were escorted out of the area and warned not to return. The footage was never seen again. In 2014, a researcher tried using ground-penetrating radar, attempting to map what might be beneath the mesa. His equipment malfunctioned, catastrophically. All data corrupted beyond recovery. He left Dulce that same day, didn't even stop to pack, just drove, as far away as possible. He later described feeling watched, followed, as if something knew what he was trying to do, and stopped him. In 2020, during the pandemic lockdowns, when the world was distracted, several witnesses reported increased activity around Dulce. More lights, more craft, more unmarked vehicles moving through the area, as if taking advantage of the chaos, the lack of scrutiny. What were they doing? What happened during those months when no one was paying attention? We may never know. The question isn't whether Dulce Base exists. The question is what to do with the possibility. Because if it does exist, if even a fraction of the testimony is accurate, then everything changes. Our understanding of human sovereignty, our place in the universe, our relationship with our own government, all of it comes into question. We'd have to accept that decisions about humanity's future are being made without our knowledge, without our consent, by people who believe they know better, who believe the truth is too dangerous for the public. We'd have to accept that we're not alone, that we've never been alone, and that contact has already happened, not peacefully, not benevolently, but as an agreement between elites, trading human freedom for technological advancement. And we'd have to ask ourselves, what else don't we know? What other facilities exist? What other agreements have been made? What other secrets are buried in the darkness? Phil Schneider believed we were running out of time, that the truth would emerge whether we were ready or not. Maybe he was right. Maybe the secrecy is becoming impossible to maintain. Too many witnesses, too much evidence, too many questions that can't be answered. Or maybe the secrecy will hold for years, decades, generations, until whatever is happening beneath places like Dulce is complete, whatever that means. The Dulce Base represents something fundamental, a question we're afraid to ask. Are we really in control of our own planet, our own species, our own destiny? Or are we being managed, guided, studied, used by something we don't understand? Something that's been here longer than we know. Something that sees us not as equals, but as resources. The evidence suggests the latter. The testimony, the patterns, the cover-ups, all point to a truth that's terrifying. We are not the masters of Earth. We never have been. We're part of something larger, something we can't see the full scope of yet. And facilities like Dulce are where that truth lives, 2 miles underground, in the darkness, where they hope we'll never look. But people are looking, more every year, asking questions, demanding answers, refusing to accept the official denials. And maybe that's the real hope. Not that Dulce will be exposed, not that the government will suddenly come clean, but that enough people will wake up, will start questioning, will refuse to accept comfortable lies. Because the truth is out there, buried, hidden, suppressed, but not gone, never gone. It's in the testimony of dying men, in the classified documents that occasionally leak, in the lights over New Mexico, in the missing people no one talks about, in the questions no one wants to answer. The truth is there, waiting for those brave enough to look. If this investigation made you question what's hidden beneath our feet, subscribe to The Dark Void and hit that notification bell, because every week we dig deeper into the facilities they don't want you to know about. More witnesses, more evidence, more truths that can't stay buried forever. The reality is darker than you imagine. And the deeper we go, the closer we get to answers they never wanted us to find. Thank you for seeking the truth with me. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because they're down there, in the darkness, beneath Dulce, beneath other places we haven't discovered yet. And one day, the truth will come to light, whether they're ready or not, whether we're ready or not. The truth is coming, and when it arrives, everything changes.